Hello, welcome to episode 5 of Primary Target. I'm joined today by my co host Vargren and our special guest Jinx Decare, and I am again your host, Who the Fuck. Jinx, why don't you tell us a little bit about your backstory?
So right now I'm the co-director of the Brave Dojo in Brave Newbies. What the Brave Dojo is it's the learning or teaching corp for Brave Newbies, the Brave Collective. So we do everything from handouts, organized classes, and just watch out for the new bros in Brave.
Nice. I kind of went a little backwards there. Some of the topics we're going to talk about today are the current events of the war in nullsec and wormhole space. We're going to talk about how much ISK and resources it takes to keep a new bro program going, like at an alliance level. And then we're going to talk about a topic of Jinx's choice. And then at the end, we'll do our normal kill mails. So I guess we'll dive into the first topic. The current events of the war in Null. Is anyone keeping track of what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, vaguely, as I think we all are through pings and going on fleets. I don't know how much have you been out much, Jinx? Have you seen much?
I went out yesterday to defend the Sov timer. Want to test soft timers and period basis, and we also, did the classic ratting in a big fleet to do ADMs.
Yeah, there do seem to be a lot of surprise ADM fleets. Not that we don't all understand why they're important, but it is still very meme-worthy whenever it happens.
That's a classic Shattered Armor move right there. Take you on a CTA strat op and then get you guys to raise ADMs. It's a classic Shattered move. Right
actually, it's been Pro-God hitting us recently with the surprise ADM fleets. The last few I've done with Pro-God have been like, hey, while we're here.
We did get a good fight on a reinforced jump bridge, which, if you're following Reddit, that's been a lot of. And goons ended up dropping carriers, so there was a big fire blob, and that was interesting.
Yeah, I did see that there was like a lot of contention over that one Ansiblex, which seemed to be like, you guys are spending a lot of attention here. I guess it has like strategic importance, but I'm not sure what it is because I'm not in a null block anymore, nor am I completely read up on like the strategic goings on of this war. From like a wormhole's perspective, we've been kind of doing some guerrilla warfare in the back end, just kind of like trolling here and there, like war of attrition style stuff.
I mean, so far from kind of like, I mean, I'm very much just like the line member at this point with a slightly more nuanced viewpoint, I would say. Just in that, I've been in kind of some of the higher fleet command positions in the past. But it certainly seems like it's just kind of small pushes from all directions at this point. Like goons aren't being overly aggressive, which you can understand from their kind of position of strength. They can really afford to kind of essentially just fall back and let a lot of very boring content happen, mostly without them. And then kind of take fights when they feel like it's a good time to do so. So really, like a lot of the pressure is on the attacking side, which is kind of what are we calling it, Pappy now?
Yep.
Which is
So I think some of the jump gates is trying to limit their ability to respond to the beachhead ops. If you look at TCAG, that's one jump out of Paragon's hull. So that's the region. That's so they can show up and defend the region gate. And if you were able to shut that down, then that would make it easier for Legacy to come in the south.
I did see that there was a shout out to Flaming Dragons, which is an old friend of ours, Adam Deathstroke's corp, his wormhole corp. They apparently have been able to been very successful in sort of guerrilla warfaring with small groups against goons, and apparently they pushed them off of a structure the other day with, I want to say, like 8 or 10 destroyers, something like that. So that,
I mean, it's a really good time. Yeah, it's a really good time to be, a small, essentially unaffiliated corp or alliance at this point, because goons are going to be stretched very thin. They're going to be unable to respond to a lot of stuff. I'm sure there's some like really nice whaling kills to be had, like wormholes popping up in the back end of Delve, and a lot of attention is being focused elsewhere. So it's just a ton of opportunities that open up, not just for kind of the big kind of war participants, but for essentially anyone who's not involved.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure it doesn't need to be said that it's not just the goons who are in vulnerable positions. I'm sure there's lots of ratters out there when they shouldn't be, and people getting caught in expensive spaceships. Certainly, it's been there's been one or two caught inside of Braves boundaries not too long ago. So yeah,
Right.
lots of opportunities out there, definitely.
Yeah, and we're seeing. I think some of them are goon affiliated, but some of the logistics routes between Brave Standing and FAT, the legacy deployment, those are getting camped consistently. Whether that's Pen is out, who I think are goon affiliated, or our best friends, Simple Farmers and Tactical Supremacy.
Who
I
are
mean,
mostly just there because there's stuff to kill, really.
right. I just pulled off the kill mail, and yeah, so less than 10 from Flaming Dragons pushed off 40 plus, 40 man plus goon fleet who had been bashing a structure for 2 hours. Seems that you can be very effective with small numbers now against Goon Swarm.
Yeah, well, I also think like a lot of it's got to do with the goons, like while they are vast, and the Imperium, like the kind of the collected goon swarm is also vast. There's limited numbers of guys who are going to be up for doing a lot of these fleets. Like FCs who are happy to step up, or just literally players who are happy to go off and do something like bash a structure.
Yeah.
So the more of these little incursions that happen, like the more fights there are over like G Magic and TCAG in period bases and Pure Blind and Pure Blind, Paragon Soul, and then kind of with Horde pushing kind of from other directions and all sorts of incursions happening in like Fountain and Quirius, and there's just little brush fire wars all over the place. Basically, all these little fires they have to put out.
Right.
It inevitably is going to lead to some kind of burnout. Like you
Yeah,
can't
that's what I was
run
thinking.
at kind
Yeah.
of full war pace the whole time. And goons have been not the most successful alliance in hanging on to a lot of their FCs. There's kind of quite a few FCs will burn out and go somewhere else. There's a reasonably high turnover, I would say.
Especially in
So yeah,
wartime
it's
FCs, I would say. Like,
yeah,
I want to
Well,
say
they've got some
Redline.
mercenaries this time. Yeah.
Redline.
true.
Redline being like one of their main FCs, especially in wartime, and having a very successful corp full of FCs. I think he was pushed out of goons, and I know they have some other good ones, but I don't know like how much stamina those guys are going to have for like a long, drawn out conflict. And yeah, I think that you're right. That's what they got to look at now. Is like it's a war of attrition on burnout. Like you form these max form fleets, several times a day in all different regions of New Eden, and it's like, at some point, dudes aren't going to want to do this anymore.
Jinx, before, I assume, were you referencing Elo Knight moving his Titan character into goons or whatever?
Yeah. So Elo,
Yeah.
and then I think Grath, and again, this is from before my time, but there's a couple, really old time
Old
FCs.
names, yeah.
Yeah, old names.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Grath Telkin being back again. I'm not sure how to take that really, because it's like he's been out of the game a long time. Like he definitely was a name years ago, but yeah, it's kind of it depends on how involved these guys want to get again. Because it is, speaking as someone who has returned from a break recently, it does kind of the game moves on without you, and people change, and you come back and kind of you don't recognize a lot of the names anymore. So,
And I have all the respect
it's
for
difficult.
Elo. I have all the respect for Elo as an FC. I think he's a fantastic FC. But like, Goons is not Black Legion, So the Goons, in many ways, is very much like Pandemic Horde or Brave, where you have to cater to the lowest common denominator on some of these things. And like his
True, but again, I don't see him actually FCing goons. I think he'll take Black Legion, and they'll just become a corp in Goonswarm, but essentially be working the same way as he did when he was working for Frat against Legacy.
Oh, you're saying like he's going to basically be a mercenary corp within Goons?
Yeah, yeah, which is
okay.
what I would imagine. Like, have we actually seen, other than Elo's Titan character being in Goons, has Elo actually put a fleet on the field against Legacy yet? Do any of us know that?
I've
I've
heard
not
it.
seen.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. So I guess we'll talk about that once it's actually been kind of more confirmed. But yeah, I would guess that would be a much more likely arrangement because that's pretty much exactly what happened with Fraternity.
Like we talked about last week, Inner Hell actually disbanded. This past Sunday, they killed their own Keepstar in very much Inner Hell fashion. And
I mean, fair play. Yeah, go out with a bang. I can respect that.
Delivered all the capitals that were that they had in there, and to different people like Villy and PGL and Matani and things like that, and shot them. And I,
yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know they'd done that. That's great. Well done.
I thought it was pretty hilarious.
Good stuff.
I've got my taste of abandoned structures, or like wormhole drops. A few weeks ago we ran the Alpha Army and earned about 350 bill of things popping out of high sec structures. So that was fun. I can't imagine what that Keepstar had in it.
I'm sorry, did you say 350 bill?
Yeah.
Good Lord, man.
So we war decked probably. We scouted tons of structures, war decked 75 plus, maybe even 100. And it was just, I actually took off vacation that week and we just had constant fleets, probably 18 hours a day or something, bashing all in alpha tunes. And we got like super efficient at looting and defending our loot from others. It was a lot of fun.
Wow, that's remarkable. So this is as a result of the recent structure changes that essentially made, is it unfueled structures behave, or abandoned structures behave now like wormhole space, where they just kick out all the loot when they die?
Right. Yeah. And it's just one timer. There's no, I mean, it's not even a timer. It's just one shot. You find an abandoned structure and you goes from full shield to dead in one go.
How do we all feel about the morality of that change? Like, for players that, like, if the structures aren't being fueled because the guy's AFK, and he's gone AFK or whatever before any of these things were being talked about by CCP, and then you come back afterwards to find that your Alliance tournament ship, which you left in your, Athanor in high sec.
I think there was some sketchy scouting going on, which was bad. But it's a game, and they make changes all the time. So
I would say,
I'm sorry.
I would say like they have the opportunity to put those things in a station instead of a citadel of their own choosing. They don't have to put it in the citadel. They can very well just log in, to the game.
The initial, when they rolled out the citadels, they said this is why it's as safe as a station. They probably should have sent emails to everybody instead of just people who weren't active for 100 days. I got a few salty emails, some sob stories, but we had a blast. So.
Yeah.
I mean, to some extent, we appreciate that this is a little unfair, but to another extent, harden the fuck up.
That is.
Until they made the faction where they made Faction 4 to Zara, because from this, I kind of wanted Brave to blow up the soda factory in GE, just because it would have had probably trillions of ISK in it.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
It had like Hero Coalition in it back in the day, so that's 40,000 players plus.
Yeah.
My God, yeah, I hadn't even considered that these ones that have been essentially were a station that turned into a faction Fortizar have had God knows how many thousands of players over the years leaving all of their stuff there and then never coming back to the game. Wow.
It was a good fix, though.
Think about when things were a station. So I don't know. I wasn't there for the changes, but like Titans used to be able to dock in stations, right?
No, I don't think so. Because they were coughing.
I think so.
Yeah, they were called. You had to cough in your pilot.
Oh, right. Okay, never mind. But think about all the capitals that were in that station before.
Yeah. There's the huge untold wealth.
Yeah.
I just think about I honestly hadn't considered that side of it at all. That there are, you know, I mean,
The thing
15,
is that
20 years worth in some of these unmoved faction Fortizars that were stations once.
the thing is though, like imagine what would happen if Brave decided to let that go abandoned and shoot it for their own profit. Like imagine how many other groups would show up to that, and it would be an absolute bloodbath on all sides. You know, like,
It would be incredible.
it would be. Yeah,
It's looting. It's looting. We do just fine. All right.
Yeah,
It's true,
true,
yeah.
true.
Brave does that very
That's
well.
one thing Brave is renowned for. It's excellent battlefield looting. So, yeah.
But
That's definitely something to think about.
I just don't have sympathy for those who like aren't in the game right now that put their stuff in their own station to let it go low power. It's like you knew it was going to run out of fuel eventually, and you knew that was going to go low power. And I just feel like that always should have had the consequence of being able to go abandoned eventually. And if you really wanted your stuff to be safe, you know that putting it into station is the best way to go right now, like, or it always was the best way to go.
What I've thought of, if you're not playing the game, like Vargan, you played WoW recently, right? I know it was the new servers and everything, but if you went back to your old character, like I have one way out there, does the stuff matter? No, you walked away from the game. So
Yeah.
I guess EVE Online sort of had a different promise, but they make changes all the time. Like so now, like they nerf Titans and Super. So are they supposed to refund people's SP for doing that? Like
Yeah. So people that aren't playing the game anyways, should we be beholden to like what they feel about how the game should be like the direction the game should be going right now if they're not playing the game anyways? Like
the only argument I would said is just purely from a technical standpoint that CCP adding like essentially putting everything that was in a Citadel before the change automatically into what's it called, the service where it's the stuff
asset
gets
safety.
blown up and it asset safety, that's the one. Brain couldn't get there. But yeah, if all of that stuff had gone into asset safety and then everything from after the point where they made the change had just been popping out like regular, I feel like that kind of would have voided a lot of these problems.
Here's the thing, if someone had a problem with it, CCP sent out the email, I'm pretty sure, or not the email, but the email, I'm pretty sure, notifying of like upcoming changes and whatnot. Log in your alpha, press asset safety, you got nothing to worry about now.
One of the worst things I think was so I went and delivered one ammo to all these structures as part of the scouting efforts, and then we started blowing them up, and you get a EVE mail that says, "Oh, your stuff has been moved to asset safety," because they didn't update that.
I wondered how many people had the dedication to go around to do that to figure out which ones were going to go abandoned soon. Because I got a notification recently, and I was like, but then I was like, that's a lot of work.
It was. People started doing it. They figured it out pretty quick because then we started blowing up structures and it'd be like 4 boxes of just one ammo and stuff like that. So.
Right. Yeah. So Interhell's disband. I'm not sure what the members who are left over are going to do. I'm not sure what this means for the landscape of wormhole space. But currently, wormhole space seems to be at least somewhat distracted by the war. There is like a combined effort of some wormhole groups, like you've seen in the Flaming Dragons thing I was talking about earlier, where they're going out and harassing goons. I don't know of any that are aligned with goons, but definitely the war has everyone's attention now, it seems.
So do you feel? Does your corp feel safer in wormhole space?
What, now that Inner Hell's gone, or now that there's a war?
Yes, both.
Yeah, sure. I mean, safer. I definitely guess we feel safer. There was always that sort of threat that Inner Hell was going to come knocking at our door, but at the same time, like Inner Hell was one of the largest fun content generators in the game. That's a very exciting type of content to experience on both sides, whether you're the evictors or the evictees. That's a high stakes, high brow, high everything style of content. And now that they're gone, it's a little bit of a sigh of relief, I guess, but a little bit of disappointment. Like, well, shit. Now what? Like, now who are we gonna have like as a combined enemy, or as a looming threat, or who's gonna be that content generator that we're like, shit, we gotta be prepared for this. We gotta be on our A game for this. We gotta be ready at all times to go, kind of thing. Yeah, so it's a double-edged sword. It's, on the one hand, it's like, oh, this makes things a little bit easier now. On the other hand, it's like, oh, this makes things a little bit easier now. So we'll see. What are your thoughts, Jinx?
I'm a little bit far removed from it. I did go to the what's Exuki's Corp. I was at their eviction, and got to fly Tempest, and that was a really fun brawl and battle. Obviously, didn't work out for Exuki and them, but
Yeah.
That was quite the experience of just everything at 0 on the wormhole and just kill everything.
Yeah, that's how it goes. This kind of brings. Actually, this doesn't bring me to my next topic. There's no good segue here.
It's all right. Just it'll flow. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it'll go. So my question to you, Jinx, being the director of the Brave Dojo and being the director of the Brave Dojo for quite some time now, I think you have one of the best Nubo programs in the game, and my hat's off to you for all the efforts you put into it. How much resource, how much ISK does it take to keep that program going? Like, how many ships do you hand out like per month? How much ISK does it cost, like, the Alliance to keep that going? And like, what do you see as like the return on that? Like, how do you see that? How do you measure that?
So the Alliance puts nothing into it. So that the Brave Dojo has always been, well, I don't know if always, but has been, at least since I've been there for 2 years, a little over 2 years, has been 100% donation run. So it doesn't come out of the Alliance wallet or anything. And to give you an example, we just did our first fundraiser. A lot of times we just receive things and people quit the game, or sometimes just this shows up, people kind of paying it forward. But last November we did a big fundraiser and got a 140 bill, which was really up the wallet, and we probably won't do a fundraiser for a while now.
That's massive.
I've been doing my best to spend it quickly, paying for classes, which is probably our biggest expense, and then ships. I've probably spent 40 bill in 6 months. So, but again, we're pretty flush right now. So we try to do what we can to try new programs, pay new FCs, pay more for classes. We've got cruiser handouts for the fund doctrines now, which we didn't have in the past. Things like that.
That's interesting. That's not at all the answer I expected. I did not expect it to be a self-sustaining program in that way at all. I honestly thought that like a portion of the Alliance taxes just went to the dojo. You've stumped me here, because I had questions, and now I have to think of new questions for you. Like, I don't
basically,
know.
it's like running a non-profit inside of Eve. Essentially, is what it seems like.
Yeah, it was a little unfortunate that I got my first Titan, a month after the 140 bill came into the dojo wallet, but those were unrelated.
Wow, that's not suspicious at all.
Not at all. That's so weird.
Why would you bring that up?
It was a coincidence.
Out of curiosity,
Yeah.
what did you?
Well, that just immediately just casts a shadow of doubt across all of this. It's all a scam. It's just a fucking Titan fund for Jinx. I see through it. See through it.
Well,
What
I'm
did
smuggling the drugs with the books, and yeah.
What did you do for the fundraiser? Like, how did you raise the funds?
So we did it Kickstarter style, and I made a sock puppet video. It's on our YouTube.
What?
Well, that's a brave tradition.
Oh,
And And so then for different levels, we got people to do silly things. Wyatt can dunk, ate some hot wings. Shatter did some. I'm blanking on the name, but he did. He did some fleets, and we had some giveaways and things like that that some of the buybacks funded. I actually still have a couple things
Was
that I
it
need to pester
was it
people because we haven't completed everything, so maybe we're a
was
little
it
bit of a
like
sneaky.
a was it like a fleet where like every time Shattered yelled, he had to give a billion isk or something like that?
No, it's we're not doing them now because of the war, but there's it's an extra squishy doctrine, the Galente.
Okay, like a scepter
Um,
doctrine.
no, let me look it up.
Talos fleets. Catalyst.
It's just all DPS warp to 0, and you just kill them. I forget what it's
Oh, like
called.
an
Sounds a
alpha
lot
It's, got the,
like
doctrine.
a
it's, guy at the,
catalyst.
it's the guy dancing with the bandana.
The guy dancing. Okay, yeah, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm gonna.
Um,
It's like the
This
ravings
is
of a crazy
terrible.
man.
So that's actually a really good way to raise funds. Is it because and I don't want to get you in a gotcha moment here, but like, is it because the alliance refuses to, doesn't have the ISK to, doesn't want to like put forth money for the dojo, or is it just from your point of view you'd rather be self-sustaining?
There's some advantages. We do get like outside people donating, so it's kind of separate. But part of it is we don't need to.
Right.
Yeah, even when we've so I put 10 bill into the effort of for the Alpha Army, and now that's self-funding itself by earning all that ISK. And we
So
did give most of that back to the players, by the way. That didn't go in Alliance wallets or anything.
okay. So this sort of segues me into another topic that we could talk about now, since you've kind of answered the question for that topic, which is tell us all about your drug cartel.
All right, I'm not doing
Well,
as
wait,
much as I used to,
tell us
but
as
actually,
much as is safe to tell us. You know.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I will have a class on this eventually. That was one of my things. That there's one image I have to make that has prevented me from doing this for 6 months. But so I really enjoy the drug aspects, the boosters in the game. One, just for the meme. Two, it's got an interesting mechanic where I'm a space drug dealer.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally.
Yeah.
and the other thing I think is really cool is that all the drugs to manufacture them, it comes from gas that's only in certain regions, and then in one hot pocket constellation, that's like where 80% of the gas comes from or something.
Right.
So if you want Frentix, you basically have to deal with Brave at some point down the line. You can get some tiny percent, and it's a pain in the ass in low sec, but like 98% of it would come someone in Brave space huffed that gas and made that drug. Um, and then to make the more advanced, the improved or the strong drugs, you have to mix them with different ones around the galaxy. So I love that part of it. And then it obviously has the shady back rooms, Discord servers where we do trades, and
That's amazing.
like there's stuff happening on Jita, but so much of those prices are like completely wild, and like I wouldn't I would pay for a lot of those at buy prices because you can't manufacture it for that. But then um, that anyway, it's an interesting market. It is subject to like booms and busts. Like at one time, it's really easy to dominate the market. There's not enough room for people don't use enough boosters for a ton of people to make drugs. So one time I was probably doing like 70% of them are drugs. Um, so
How lucrative is this for you? Everyone wants to know.
um, over time, I've definitely made any sale is can be like 100% plus profit. But the problem is that it's easy to dump too much ISK into like, ooh, there's a cheap BPC, I'm going to get that and that. So I have, depending on
Yeah.
how you value it, I have somewhere between 5 and 15 bill of BPCs that are, it's kind of hard to move those if I wanted to liquidate.
Right.
So it's almost
Okay, but
like a trap.
I mean, how
But I've
many
made,
gold? How many gold AK-47s do you own?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure that's how they measure
it
success
probably
in drug
paid for,
dealing.
I probably paid for half my rag. So
Damn.
That's pretty good if you have 15 bill just sitting around not liquid and you paid for half a rag with drugs. I assume the other half is from blood diamonds. Is that right? The other half is from blood diamonds.
well, so then once you start huffing, like your mother tells you not to, then you start going, oh, that wormhole gas sells pretty well. And then you start making T3s, and T3 production has been
Ah.
good as too.
So you're doing
So-
T3 production as well, huh?
Yeah, I actually have a wormhole gas and ancient salvage buyback, so sell me your stuff. Who?
Hello, competitor. Hello, competitor.
Yeah. No. Just sell me your stuff. You can be my supplier. It's a better relationship.
Oh my god! See, this is how he got to be head of an international drug cartel.
Yeah, right. He's already. Yeah.
Already making deals.
Always be closing.
Yeah. That's interesting. I did not know.
And that
that
market's
you-
much healthier. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good question. Like, how healthy is that market compared to the T3 market? Is right now like super healthy if you're a producer.
Yeah.
The same with the T2 market apparently as well.
Yeah, T2 I don't really mess with. I have the skills, but T3 I think is one, it's gated, so you have less competition, and that's the same reason I like the drugs is it is takes very specific skills, and then you have to know you have to know where these things come from, and it just takes like a higher level of research that gates a lot of people out. So then there's room to be the only supplier or one of few suppliers.
I see. So we have time now for a topic of your choice. What's your choice? Or you can plug Brave or the dojo or whatever you want.
Okay, so what do you guys? We're still in the starvation period. What do you guys see coming out the other side
Starvation period. Define that.
for resources? I know you guys don't do a ton of the PVE, but you have to know where your ships come from.
No idea. Oh my god! Not even like a little bit.
Are you saying
I think I've built.
Well, they
one
removed
thing
99%
once.
of the ore in nullsec.
Did
Yeah.
they?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
cool.
so it sucks if you're trying to build stuff in nullsec now.
Interesting.
The other day-
works don't really work. So, but they said this is the starvation period. So, what does the period look like on the other side?
The other day, Ares, the interceptor, the Galente interceptor, went from like 25 millipop to 55 millipop, and none left on the market in Jeddah. This was yesterday, the day before, I think. None on the
Interesting.
market in Jeddah. People were like taking them from, like as many as they could fit in a freighter from Amar off the market and shipping them to Jeddah, and they were gone in like 20 minutes.
All right, we're gonna have to do this, like, explain it to someone with no clue what you're talking about thing, like we normally do. So they've reduced the amount of ore, like everywhere across the board.
Yeah, in nullsec.
In
So
nullsec, okay.
they removed most of the spod, which is the trit containing ore. The trit is tritanium.
There's
is
the
the one
basic
that-
building block.
Right.
One,
You need it for every ship. And so that's gone. So now that production has gone to HiSec, and so now HiSec has all that. So I guess kind of getting back to the regional markets of drugs, or like where wormhole gas comes from, would you want to see the north has all of one material and the south has all of another material? Or
I've always been a fan of the idea of resources being a depletable thing. Like it's in many ways seems bizarre to me that they haven't been. Like, they've been on a daily basis in that, you'll go and mine the ice belt in the system and then it'll be gone, but then it'll respawn. But I've often thought that it would benefit the game if the valuable resources, once consumed in an area, would then respawn somewhere else, and thus kind of require either the movement of large power blocks or will just literally be a very good way of spreading out where the money rests in the game. It stops one corp or one alliance or one big power block essentially setting up where all the rich stuff is and staying there forever and being able to be shifted. But if the resource that they were there for shifted, then they would have to either go to war to take over the new area or accept the fact that whoever lives there now is going to be getting a lot of money in, and thus kind of balance is achieved. So
Yeah,
I feel
I'm
like
with
on a larger strategic point of view, that makes the most sense to me.
I'm with you on that, and I'm against the part where it's like, like right now the Tranquility Trading Tower agreement, where 3 of the largest nullsec blocks sort of share the profit there, and they have that agreement still in place. I'm against a system that would. So let's say the North has this, the South has that, the West has this, the West, and they all agree like we'll just share our part of the
Yeah,
resources with you. So
OPEC basically.
I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not okay with that. I'm okay with the resources shift as one, depending on like the iHub that's placed down or the TC that's placed down or something like that, that forces groups to either take new space or move out of old space and move into new space. So that it forces conflict in a game that needs conflict.
Would that just have the big coalitions do kind of like rotation, crop rotation or something?
I mean,
I
yeah,
mean,
I guess
it's
you'd have to
entirely
like refine
possible they
it.
would. It's entirely possible that is exactly what would happen, and that but a lot of it depends on kind of like how small the pockets are, how far apart they are, how frequently they spawn. If it's kind of randomized and things are popping up all over the place, it just would require so much time and effort to be moving constantly all the time following these resources that like essentially it would kind of you're going to burn out just trying to do that, I think. So I feel like it would be a good way of distributing wealth, like in a more realistic fashion in some way, I guess, because it's like, yeah, I guess this is on a intergalactic scale. You can't just go and mine the same resource somewhere forever. Essentially, it's going to run out at some point, but then somewhere else across the galaxy, new resources are discovered. So what do you want to do? Do you want to up and go and get them, or do you want to stay where you are and keep building what you've got and import it and pay? So it just leads to a lot more interesting game choices, I think, if it's done like that. So that's how I'd like to see it pan out.
Same.
I hope if they do like the regional or even like the resource exhaustion, that small groups or new players would still be able to get everything they need to like build a ship. Because if you were a nullsec and you're new and the only way to get a resource to build your first cruiser was to import it from highsec, then I think that's really gonna that would hurt us, I think.
I struggled to like think
Selfishly,
of a way that's gonna like divide up the major groups. Like I just don't know what the answer is. But what I do know is if that's not possible, then I think what needs to happen is instead of smaller groups needing larger groups, something needs to shift where larger groups need smaller groups. So that it's not this we're the big kid on the block, you bow down. It's like this you are pushed now to be a an organization that provides content and provides something valuable for the players, and so that the small groups want to come to you, and not just because they need to not be evicted by you kind of thing. That used to be the meta where like there was an incentive for large groups or small groups to band together into an alliance to help each other, and it's turned from that into small groups now either sort of bend the knee to large alliances or coalitions so they don't get evicted, or they join them because they can't survive on their own because they're being pushed out by other large groups. It's not the meta that I want to see, but the game does go
yeah,
the way it wants.
I think one issue trying to support the small groups, you see things that are happening like Brave did it in the catch pipe to fight simple farmers, and RC has been doing it a ton in Pravi, which is you just make lots of small alliances to have capitals if you get bonuses.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could see if they had some kind of bonus for small groups, that same thing could be abused.
Yeah. So now we come to the segment where we talk about a kill mill. And Vargren has chosen some very special kill mails.
Well, it's a series of kill mails. So I had a look at Jinx's kill board because that's the kind of thing that I do. And I was going back through the early kills, and I was a recruiter for a while. In fact, I think unofficially I still kind of am. And one of the things that you look at as a recruiter is you go back to when someone applies to the corp. I'll go and look at the Z kill. I'll go back to the earliest kills that they had, the earliest losses, and it's very easy to spot if someone is an alt or a main by how horrifically laughable their first page of kills are. The first page of losses are, I should say. Because those of us that started playing the game and just threw things on a spaceship and went out and did stuff and thought, oh, yeah, this is fine. I'll have 6 different types of guns and hull repairs and lots of cargo space for all the loot I'm going to pick up and a single salvager I don't have the ability to use yet. So most of these skills look, absolutely hilarious. And the rather interesting thing about Jinx is that very few of these early kills are hilarious. They all basically seem to know roughly what you're doing. So, I mean, you've got a couple of losses in like 2010, and I think you probably stopped playing the game for quite some time and came back in 2013, if I had to guess.
Yeah. I've probably played. I quit probably 7 times.
Are we outing the spy? Are we outing the spy right now?
No.
Are we outing like the deep spy in Brave?
I've quit like 7 times, I'd say.
Yeah.
Before really coming in. So 2013 was the first time it really caught with Brave newbies. And then I went AFK for life. And then now I've been back for like 3 years.
Oh yeah, it was much the same with me. I've kind of, I think it was 2007 I first started, and then 2009, and then came back again in 2013, and on and off. That's always the way with Eve. But yeah, the very strange thing here is that you really don't have any of those early losses. And I feel that in many ways, what I'm doing here is looping a very, very long way around to this being a plug for joining Brave newbies when you are actually new at the game. Because what it seems to me here is that as soon like you've joined Brave newbies kind of very soon after you've kind of come back after like trying the game out, and then essentially all of your ships pretty much make sense from that point on. You've got the same types of guns, you've got decent fits. You clearly don't have the skills to put a lot of the stuff in, but you're doing your best. So yeah, I was fully intending to shame you with a horrific early loss mail, and instead I feel like I've just discovered a really good example as to why joining a new bro corp when you're new is a good idea.
Or you've discovered a good spy. One or the other.
Yeah, or Jigs is just a spy and he's taken us all in which case, bloody good job. This will make a cracking story someday.
So I guess Rifters gained a low slot at some point.
Yes.
Or I always chose to fly without one. Apparently rigs were not big in Brave at the time.
Oh, you can't worry too much about these things.
The why rig a ship? It's just gonna die anyways. Like.
Yeah. I mean, you didn't really kind of get into rigs until the second page of losses, but still early on.
I've got a Rifter here. So on April 14th, 2013, there's a Salvager in the high. I just want to point that out.
You always
So
meant
very
to be in Brave, really, weren't you?
Yeah, that's the most brave thing I've ever heard of. I think that wraps things up. I'd like to thank Jinx for being on the show. I really appreciated having you here. And I do appreciate your perspective. Thank you, Vargren, as always, for being my trusty sidekick and co-host.
Welcome.
And, thank you all for listening. Make sure you stay tuned for our next episode where we are going to have a CCP employee on the podcast. That's going to be episode 6. And fly dangerously.